I guess my first question that I have to ask you is, why are you doing this again? It's your third run.
Yes.
And are you partially terrified that 3 times won't be lucky this time around? I mean, it has to be hard to have 2 unsuccessful leadership bids behind you. Are you ready for potentially a third?
Well, I'm in this to win, and certainly I learned a lot from the other 2 times that I ran for leader, but I just felt that I couldn't sit back any longer. I'm really very concerned about some of the things that are happening in Ontario. People are finding it more and more difficult to pay their bills and take care of their families. You've probably heard some of the stories where people are finding it hard to pay their hydro bills and to feed their family. We have many, many young people who can't find work, and our economy is really faltering. So I felt that I had to come forward. I have had 9 years of experience at Queen's Park as an MPP, and I think in this leadership race, because it's unusual in that there's 3, now 4 people who are running that aren't currently at Queen's Park, that experience counts with an election in June. So that's why I started in this campaign, because I felt that I had to, that experience is really necessary, and that we need a progressive Conservative government in Ontario.
You didn't have a lot of time to make this decision, and yes, these are really unexpected, unprecedented circumstances. Did you have to do a lot of soul searching? Was it like jumping off a cliff to do this?
Well, it was something that was certainly surprising. I never expected there would be another opportunity to run for leader, and of course I had to quit my job in order to do this. So it was a big decision, but in the end, when I thought about what the state that Ontario was in, that I wanted to make a contribution and to put my name forward for the members of our party to make a decision on.
And there's been a bit of sniping, as you know. It was on social media that, you know, you had this plum liberal job, and here you are now running as a Conservative. What do you say to that?
Well, I say that's nonsense. What I actually did was I applied for a job with many other people, and I was selected as patient ombudsman, and I have been serving people for the last 2 years in the healthcare field. It's something that I've always wanted to do as an MPP or as patient ombudsman, and that's where I've spent the past 2 years, and I've learned a lot about healthcare, which is of course really important right now. It's the largest item in our budget, and something that people are not very happy with what the Liberals have done. So I can say that I've had the chance to speak with patients, families, and healthcare providers, so I understand both the challenges but some of the solutions as well.
What would a solution be?
I think one big area of concern is in long-term care, that we don't have enough long-term care beds for people that need them, and that we need to create more spaces, particularly in some of the rural and northern areas. And we need to do that because people are ending up staying in hospitals because they can't go home and they can't find a placement in a timely manner, and that basically affects all the operations in the hospital too. So when you hear about hallway medicine in the emergency department, in large part that's because they don't have the beds in the upper floor. So to create that flow through the hospital and to unclog the emergency department, I think we really need to find a solution to long-term care.
How would you do it quickly? I mean, many would say that we have a crisis in long-term care. There's a 33,000 person wait list. It can take up to 5 years, and people, as you said, have nowhere to go. How could you ease that quickly, efficiently?
Well, I think there's a few things that can be done. One is to make sure that people understand what their options are when they leave the hospital. People have told me that they aren't given enough information about what's available, about when it's going to be available. So I think communication sounds obvious, but it's lacking very often. So if people knew what their options were, that would help. I think that opening up some more long-term care beds on an interim basis, which is something that is being worked on, I think is another solution. But I think we really need to sit down and take a look, do the math and figure it out, because there's a formula that has to be applied to see how many beds you have in a certain area. But we really need to do that. And what I have not seen from the Liberal government is a plan. We've known for many years that baby boomers are aging, they need more health care and long-term care, but we find it difficult to deal with what we have now, never mind what we're going to have in the future. So we need to deal with that right away.
Is it odd running against Doug Ford, who's an old family friend?
No, it's not odd. I see it as a friendly competition. You know, Doug and I are friends. Our families have been friends for many years. Doug is a great guy. He has a different style than I have, and he expresses himself differently. So I think that what we need to concentrate on in this leadership campaign, and what I'm asking our members to look at, is who do you think is the best person to take on the Win Liberals and win government on June the 7th. That is where I believe my experience makes a difference, and why I am the one that can do that job.
As you said, Doug Ford has a much different style than you do, and it seems he does seem to be the loudest in this leadership campaign, holding, you know, the news conference first out of the gate, saying he was announcing. He seems to have set the tone for the carbon tax, and with others following after that. Education, I know you've mentioned it as well, but he had a news conference about it. Are you finding that he is setting the tone and the pace of this leadership campaign?
No, not at all. When I got involved in this campaign, I heard from a lot of members of the party who were concerned that they had not been consulted on the carbon tax issue and that they were not happy with it. So as candidates, we all heard the same thing, and we all responded to it, that people of Ontario are finding life increasingly unaffordable. The last thing they need is another tax. What they need is tax relief. And that's what we're all talking about, because we all heard the same things.
But how are you going to pay for other promises in whatever is left of the Patrick Brown platform? I mean, if you take the carbon tax away, it's $4 billion. And I know people are saying, well, we'll find efficiencies at Queen's Park, but isn't that a rather sort of simplistic, easy answer to give?
Well, the actual fact of the carbon tax is, yes, it pays for part of the platform, not in the entire platform.
But $4 billion is a lot of money.
It's $4 billion, but it's $4 billion over 4 years. So it's about $1 billion a year. And we are going to look for efficiencies. What I would like to do, because I was an auditor in a previous life, I would like to be Kathleen Wynne's auditor to get rid of the waste that she has in her budget. So it's a simple thing to say that, well, we'll just take 2 or 3% off the bottom line. But that's not a true value for money audit. It's hard work. You have to spend the time doing it. I'd like to go line by line to see if there's value for taxpayers. If there's not, then we need to get rid of it. And I think that's what taxpayers would expect.
What if you don't find a lot of waste?
I expect we will. I'm not concerned about that. But I think we also have to find other revenue sources, because we need to be fiscally responsible. Okay,
when you say other revenue sources, what do you mean? What are you thinking?
We're looking at some other alternatives right now as substitutes for carbon tax that will still be environmentally responsible as well as fiscally responsible.
Are you replacing one tax with another, though? With just a different name?
No, that is not the intent. We want to resist any further new taxes and reduce taxes for people. So we don't have anything that we can put in final form before our members yet, but we're working very hard on that, because I know that our members, as well as the people of Ontario, deserve that answer.
Let's talk about the platform that Patrick Brown had created and the party. I mean, honestly, the party seems to be in a mess, in turmoil. Vic Fedeli himself said he needed to root out the rot. How rotten is the party?
I don't see it that way at all. I see that we have needed to make some changes. There's no question about it. The last few weeks have been tumultuous, to say the least. But I also think that we have a really firm foundation. And Vic and the team that is remaining neutral in this leadership race are working hard to make sure that our membership lists are in order, that we have a safe, confidential way for people to vote online using a PIN, and that we have a great caucus that are doing a good job. We have wonderful candidates, a really diverse group of candidates that really reflects Ontario, and that we have a good platform that we're running on. So I feel really positive about where we are right now, and I think that the people of Ontario will see that as well.
Do you think, though, or do you think some core trust has been shaken and the integrity of the party has been damaged with these allegations, not only against Patrick Brown, but with what Vic Fedeli had to say about the party, the memberships? You know, Patrick Brown said he took them to 200,000. Now Vic Fedeli's people are saying, it might be closer to 77,000.
Yes.
You know, some nomination battles, 2 have to be redone. It seems like it is really a mess. Do you think in June voters are going to be able to get past that? Why would they trust your party after all of this has come to light?
I think that's what's really important for voters to take a look at, is that we have had some problems, but we're dealing with them. And I think to try and pretend that that's not the case isn't going to get anybody anywhere. We need to fix those problems, we need to stand on the foundation, and we need to move forward. That's what we're doing, and I believe that people will realize that we're being open and transparent about what's happened, but we're putting that behind us. We're concentrating on the future. We're fixing things where we need to fix things, but what we really need to concentrate on is fixing up the economic mess that Kathleen Wynne has made in Ontario. That's what people really care about. They want change, and we are ready to bring that change in a responsible, capable manner.
Let's talk about Patrick Brown for a moment and these allegations against him. New revelations have come out. He is vehemently denying them, saying he's going to clear his name. He has made some statements alleging that the accuracy of the report is false. And one of the women has come out and said she was not in high school after all, and she was not underage. If Patrick Brown can clear his name and put these allegations to rest, do you think he should be the leader again?
He's already, resigned as leader, and I think that.
Do you think that was the right thing to do, though? Was it too hasty, and did all of this balloon out of control too quickly?
Well, I think that it was really unfortunate for Patrick that there were two women who came forward, which they're entitled to do, with allegations, but they're anonymous allegations, and I truly believe that Patrick deserves the right to clear his name. And I know that he's working on doing that very hard, and that should his name be cleared before the next election, then I would certainly allow him to run as a candidate. But I have not heard of any indication that he intends to run as leader again.
Do you think that it's fair, what has happened, when nothing has been proven?
I think that what's unfair is that Patrick did not have the chance to state his version of what happened. And so I think that some people may have rushed to judgment, but I think that it's important to hear all of the information, including from Patrick, about what happened, and then people will know. They'll be able to make their own determination. But so far, we haven't heard everything from Patrick, and there may be other things that the women want to say as well. I believe that it should be open and transparent, and that everybody should have the opportunity to state their view in a full and fulsome way.
In this Me Too era, where there's hashtag Believe the Victim,
Yes.
Where do you stand on that? Because Andrea Horwath, Kathleen Wynne, the next day at Queen's Park, were firmly, I believe the victim. Do you think that victims should automatically be believed at every turn?
No, I don't think so. I think that it depends on having all of the relevant information, and I think that everyone should be entitled to state what happened in their view, because sometimes accusations come forward that have no basis. So all of the information needs to be known. But I do believe that women should feel free to come forward with allegations that, not allegations, but ideas about what's happened to them, and they should do so without feeling shamed or have things swept under the carpet. I think that things should be open and transparent. Everyone should have the opportunity to state their views.
So you mentioned if you were leader and Patrick Brown had cleared his name, you would allow him to run under the PC banner in the next election.
Yes.
If you're leader and this is still in flux and there is no resolution yet, will you allow him to run under the PC banner?
I have indicated that if he's able to clear his name, he'll be able to run. I know that he's working very hard on that. I don't know where he is in that process or exactly what he's doing, but we'll assess at each stage. If he comes forward to me, should I become the leader, and says, this is what I've found out, I consider my name to be cleared, then we'll have to take a look at it then.
Let's talk about education.
Sure.
Where do you stand on the sex ed curriculum? And I mean, I already
Yes.
know, but let's hear what you would like to see happen with it. Are you going to blow it up?
I'm not going to blow it up, but I would like to open it up. I do believe that we need to have a sex education curriculum for our children in schools, but I've heard from many parents that believe that these guidelines brought in by the government were not founded on consideration with them. Parents understand what things that they want their children to learn at what ages and what's appropriate for them, and that's mostly what I've heard from parents, is the age appropriateness of some of the items in the guidelines. I would like to sit down with parents in various parts across the province, speak to them specifically about what their concerns are, and then make changes where necessary. So,
how much of a hardwire balancing act do you have to do to appeal to the hard right within the party? I mean, it seems it's tricky because Ontario is not a hardcore right. They're sort of more a moderate base, I believe, or the majority, and which is why we've been liberal for the last 14 years. But you do have a segment of your party that is much further to the right. So do you have to really delicately maneuver this? And how much say do they have going forward?
No, I think it's important that we listen to the views of all of the members of the party. There are
you comfortable with a hard right stance, though?
I am very comfortable with the views of a number of people who would call themselves social conservatives. I certainly agree with things like changing the sex ed curriculum where necessary to make sure that we could have free votes on matters of conscience and morals. I have been in that position myself as an MPP, where it's been difficult to vote in favor of certain issues, and so you often people just don't show up for votes. I don't think that's right. I don't think you're being true to yourself when you're put in that position, and you're certainly not being true to your constituents who expect you to represent their views. So I have no problem with allowing members of caucus with our candidates to express their views. I think that makes us a stronger, better party, because then you have a 360-degree look at issues, and that helps you to make better decisions. So I'm not afraid of that at all. I think it's healthy.
Friday's the deadline for signing up members.
Yes.
How's it going?
Very well. We had a deadline last Friday for signing up people using paper forms and cash or credit card submissions. This week it's online forms and credit card submissions. So we're doing very well. I'm very encouraged. And then we get into the persuasion part of the campaign after this. And so I'll continue to travel and do my best and to get all the members out that can support me, and hoping to have a good result on March the 10th.
And my last question, why you over the other candidates?
Experience. I think experience really counts here. I've had 9 years of experience as an MPP. I know how things work at Queen's Park. I've been in question period with Kathleen Wynne. I've debated her on a number of occasions. I'm ready to do it again. I also have traveled across the province, and so I understand what the different issues are in different parts of the province. I'd heard from our grassroots members. I know what some of the solutions are. And then, of course, working in healthcare for the last 2 years has really given me an insight as to what the concerns are and some of the solutions. So I think that combination of experience and knowledge puts me in a position to start on day one. I can hit the ground running with an election so close. I'm ready to go on March 11th.
Christine Elliott, thank you very much for joining us today.
A pleasure. Thank you, Cynthia.